withstand obstacles. I'm a visual artist and mathematician, and my work bridges the gap between humanities and sciences. My research focuses on the metaphorical connection between the abstract theory of mathematics and the visual process of creating art. So if we think about high-level mathematics, proving theorems. So a theorem is an if-then statement. So the if part is the hypothesis, and then from the hypothesis, there's work that has to be done to get to the conclusion. It's a little bit in the middle is the proving process. And when creating visual art, I start with a blank piece of paper or a piece of canvas or even a material that I repurpose, and I get to a final point. It's a bit in the middle of the process that's the same to me. To me, art is mathematics and mathematics is art, and I use both to solve problems. My process of creating artwork has moved from being traditional to more experimental. So when I first started creating art, I was so concerned with having perfect drawings and everything being precise and perfect. I think it's a bit of the analytical side of me kicking in. But as I moved further along in my journey, I moved to being more experimental, having fun. There are no mistakes. So even if I do something that was shocking or surprising, I just work it into the process and keep going. I create visuals that pair with complex math concepts. And these works, so here I created these irregular grid shapes here. So when I think of grids are rigid and they provide structure and support, but they're uniform, they're all the same. So by creating irregular shapes, I'm dismantling the uniform and rigid connotations associated with grid-like structures. My way of working has shifted from more so, well, I started off being analytical. So when I work with a piece of work, I look at the different materials. So if I'm working with collage pieces of work, in thread, yarn, so many different materials, I think about how these different elements can fit into an overall picture. And so I'm destructing some of these works, like the ones in the back. I know you can't really see them, but they're collage pieces of artwork. And so I put them together in a new way. And so by creating something new, I'm being able to create something that's new and unique. So my most recent installation, which is this right here, intersection, I've been drawing in lines with three-dimensional space. So here I'm visualizing intersecting lines in space. So this point right here is a point of intersection. So all these different lines that you can see have a distinct position in space, and the point of intersection is this point here. And here's another one as well. So a single point, which all these lines project towards. So an intersection to me is a common ground. My goal in life is to help other people succeed and to operate in a space where they can be both creative and analytical. To me, being creative and analytical are two sides of the same coin. They're both interconnected. And this passion of mine has led me thousands of miles away from home. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, and I'm currently pursuing a postgraduate degree in multidisciplinary innovation. And in this course, I learned how to help people, external organizations, solve real-life problems. And I've learned to do it through the design thinking process. Has anyone heard of the design thinking process? No worries. I'll talk to you about it today. So here's the design thinking process. So it's a 5-step process used to solve real-life problems. And the first step is empathize. So in the empathize step, a designer, we look at the situation from a different perspective beyond our own perspective. So we think about the end users, their pains and gains, and their desires. We also think about the stakeholders and their different points of view. So being able to do all this information and gaining the insights helps us move on to step 2, which is define. And then the define stage is where we help define the problem. So organizations come to us to help them solve a challenge, but not only to just solve the challenge as is to help them define what the problem really is. So a lot of times they come to us with a statement of, this is our issue, and let me just draw it. So let's say this little circle here is where they think the issue is. And then they come to us, and we do our research, and we say, actually, yeah, the problem is there, but it's actually this larger sphere as well, because we're looking at the perspective from so many different angles that we can give them some new insights and a new way of working. And third step is to ideate. So in the ideation stage, where you brainstorm several different ideas of different solutions to how you can solve the problem. So it's about being creative and having fun and thinking about bold and crazy ideas. Nothing is too radical or too crazy. Because the cool thing about thinking this way is that you can always scale an idea back. But if you start from a framed point of view, it's often hard to expand and build upon it. And so after the ideation phase, you have usually a lot of ideas, so many ideas. And so in order to be able to prototype, which is to take a couple of concepts and build it forward, there's a bit of theming, categorization, and thinking about, well, how do these ideas fit along with the company's overall strategy? So that's part of the prototype phase. So we take a few concepts and we build from this. The idea is that you create something that you can show and get feedback from, which is the test step. So in the test step, you take an artifact. Usually it's best to have more than one prototype. So if I have one prototype and then I take another prototype to my end user, I can ask them to tell me what they like about each. It's a way to start a dialogue, because what you might find out is that they might like a couple of elements from one of the prototypes and another element from the other prototype. So when you take the feedback, you can make a better version that takes the best of both pieces. So the design thinking process is actually not linear as it looks here. It's more like this. It's more chaotic. It's a non-linear iterative process. So you keep going on this process over and over until you deliver something of value. So say I take my prototype and I test it and I realize, actually, I don't really understand the problem well. So I can jump back to define, and then I can do the process again. So the design thinking process maps human need into a viable business strategy. But it isn't just about understanding design methods and approaches. It's also understanding environmental issues, megatrends, and events that affect the business. And I work on a multidisciplinary team. So a multidisciplinary team is a group of people who are from several different disciplines that work together. And the cool thing about working on a multidisciplinary team is that we get to utilize all these different skill sets to develop innovative solutions outside the boundaries of any one of those disciplines alone. But as you can imagine, when you put a bunch of people in a room that think different, there's bound to be conflict. So the key to being on a multidisciplinary team is to have respect for those who have Napoleon's views of your own. And living in the northeast of England has been way outside of my comfort zone. I'm surrounded by people who do not think like me, speak like me, or look like me. But I've met a lot of people who challenge me to be a better version of myself. Studying here has pushed me to be more self-directed and have a reflective practice. So I came here with two goals. One goal was to pursue a master's degree, but the second goal was to leave a lasting impact. So I intended to run a series of design thinking workshops with youth here so that I can nurture the interdisciplinary creative process. But sadly, things didn't go as planned. I even won an award to support my efforts, but no matter how I tried, it just wasn't getting anywhere. So what I thought was a failure turned out to be a learning opportunity for me. For 3 months, I struggled to get it off the ground. Met with several nonprofit organizations, schools, to partner to see how I could integrate my program within their current efforts. I wasn't getting anywhere. No sign-ups, just overall lack of interest. It was really frustrating. But it wasn't until the end of April that I had my epiphany moment. I realized that bridges take time to build. At this point, I was working on a university project where I had to apply design thinking processes to life coaching. And as I went through the process, I realized that it was critical for me to evaluate my current situation and to reflect so that I can reframe these challenges into new opportunities. I asked myself, how might I convey the value of this process, and what are the other ways that I can deliver my message? And more importantly, I got to reflect on who I am and who I am becoming in this world. I came here with a vision of where I wanted to be, but I couldn't anticipate how many obstacles stood in front of me at the start. I needed time to evaluate my current situation. I needed to be kind to myself. Reflection is a process of looking back, and in looking backwards, you can compare your past actions to your intended behaviors. This year was life-changing, and the lessons that I've learned will leave a lasting impact on my future endeavors. So what are my next steps? So I'm currently reviewing my knowledge on vector and typological spaces so that I can create a set of visual problem-solving processes so that I can help visualize things that seem abstract and difficult to understand. I'm also working on an interactive art installation entitled Bridge. And Bridge builds on the art that I showed you previously, but it adds a new component of dynamic lights controlled by sensors. And I'm in the early phases of this project, so my plans might change, and I'm okay with that. In closing, I want to leave you all with a guide to how to build a bridge or realize an opportunity using the design thinking process. Step 1, define the problem or desired outcome. Ask yourself, what do you want to achieve and what makes it so difficult? Step 2, reflect on past experiences. To draw the timeline and map out all the pivotal moments in your life. So think about the people who influenced you, different factors, even your feelings and how they influence your decision making. Step 3, reframe the challenge. So think about the different opportunities that lie ahead of you. What life experiments you can test. Step 4, realize the opportunity, take action. And once you finish that, repeat steps 2 and 3. Between steps 2 and 3 is where a transformation takes place. It's an iterative and lifelong process of reflection and reframing. For me, instead of delivering a workshop series, I'm creating a video which will showcase the design thinking process. And I hope to deliver the value of this process so that one day I can deliver a workshop series. We're all on a lifelong journey. The future is unknown. And the key to coping with uncertainty is to pause to reflect, plan for the future, and to be self-compassionate. Bridges are built to span obstacles. Thank you.